All right, moving right along, let's talk about the painted desert sheep. They are a very cool looking sheep, kind of similar to the black belly or the Barbados. There's really fun genetics that you can get in with a painted desert, like spots, colors, horn shape. The thing with them is that they're small but hardy. What's interesting is that they're small. The reason why they were made is to actually be a hunting sheep that are very hardy and can range super well, and that would be a good game sheep. So the fact that they're small is kind of puzzling because you'd think you'd want like a nice big sheep for that. The other side of that coin, though, is that the painted desert sheep are incredibly hardy. Like, they're used to, trucking it out there in the wild, and so very hardy sheep. I often see painted deserts mixed into a commercial flock, into a meat flock, and I'm all for that. I think that's a really good fit for the painted desert. Is the painted desert right for you? Well, they're very easy to maintain, so if low maintenance is up your alley, then painted desert might be for you, especially if you have very rugged pasture. They could be worth crossing with something that's a little bit bigger, perhaps a Dorper, which a local that I know around here has done. He says that they fill out quite a bit bigger than your standard painted desert, not as big as a Dorper, a full-blood Dorper, but he did mention that they are very docile compared to a full-blood Dorper. Dorpers are kind of like your linebackers, whereas these painted deserts, although they look really intimidating, at least the Rams do, they're a little bit more docile despite them being a wild sheep. So painted desert, really cool sheep for that situation if you want to cross it and just have a very low maintenance meat sheep. Okay, let's take a trip back to Europe for this next sheep. I'm going to talk about the Icelandic sheep. Like its name implies, it's from Norway. Just kidding, it's from Iceland. The Icelandic sheep, very low maintenance in cold climates. So I will pause right there for a minute and say if you're in a cold climate, the Icelandic is something that you want to consider. Now, when I say cold, I mean like Arctic, Siberian, not just, I have snow on the ground 3 months out of the year. No, like Icelandic is like if you have consistent sub-zero temperatures, that's cold for a sheep. So Icelandic might be a route to go. The cool thing about the Icelandic is that it's a very primitive breed. I don't hear a lot of people talk about heritage breed sheep as much as they do other animals. Hogs, for example, there's a lot of heritage breeds. I hear primitive thrown around a lot for sheep. The Icelandic is a primitive breed sheep. They also grow a shorter tail, which is kind of cool and interesting. They are a great dual-purpose breed. So if you also want wool, the Icelandic could be the route for you. Their lambs don't dress out very big. Their lambs dress out at about 35 to 40 pounds. And I didn't look at, that's hanging weight, by the way. I did not look at what age they process. I would assume it's a standard age, which for us on our homestead, it's between 7 and 9 months. And ours dress out between 50 and 55 pounds on average. So is the Icelandic right for you? Again, this one's probably a very specific need, but if you're very cold climate, or if you want a sheep that can do both wool and meat, the Icelandic could be a route for you. Okay, let's get to a fun one. I've spent a lot of time researching the St. Croix. If you watch Greg Judy, Regenerative Farming on YouTube, which if you don't, please do. He's great. He raises St. Croix. They are the reigning champion sheep of disease and parasite resistance. So if you've got a large flock, that's incredibly important to you, right? They're a smaller sheep, but smaller by comparison to a Dorper, but a very good low input animal. Along with that low input, they are great mothers and great lambers, which again, if you've got a large flock, that might be the most important critical element to keeping a successful flock. And they take care of themselves. They take care of themselves really well. One of my favorite lines from Greg Judy is he's talking about his St. Croix during the winter. And he says, if you throw a cow on silvopasture, which silvopasture is pasture with trees, if you throw a cow on silvopasture for the winter, she'll starve to death. But if you put a sheep out there and he raises St. Croix, he's like, so long as there's leaves on the ground, she'll come out fat as a pig. And I love that. The St. Croix are similar to Dorper in a lot of ways, and so I have a lot of a healthy competitive respect for the St. Croix sheep. So if you are if you want a hardy meat sheep, very parasite and pest resistant, the St. Croix is almost a no-brainer. Very good for large-scale producers who want to manage a lot of sheep with very little input. Okay, speaking of the St. Croix and the Dorper competition, let's talk about the Royal White. I did not know. This is the one sheep I had not heard of until I started doing the research for this, which probably means it's not that popular of a sheep yet. But the Royal White is a cross between a Dorper and a St. Croix. So you're going to get the meatiness of the Dorper and the resistance of the St. Croix. The goal of the Royal White has been to produce a leaner meat with a higher carcass yield with minimal inputs. So the Royal White is a newer sheep to me. I'm sorry I don't have much more information out there. I haven't actually talked with anyone who breeds them, although I found out they may have started in Utah. I could be wrong. That's what somebody told me. So I should get to know that because it's my backyard. The folks that I've interacted with on Facebook groups or here on YouTube that have commented rave about the Royal White. I would like to get to know the Royal White much better as I continue my journey with sheep. So, if you keep them or you know someone that keep them, comment in the video. I'd love to know more about them. But who is this a good fit for? By the sound of it, it could be a good fit for anyone, for small scale stuff or for large scale. Okay, who did I save for last? If you know sheep, you can probably guess this one because you're like, why haven't you mentioned Katahdins yet? That's who it is, the Katahdin sheep. So I don't keep Katahdins, and I feel like there's some level of competition between people that keep Dorper and Katahdins because they're two very well-known meat sheep. And so from what I've heard about Katahdins, there's a lot of information out there because a lot of people keep them. They're not a super uniform breed. The parasite resistance, for example, some people rave about it, and some people say, nah, it's over-exaggerated. And I think that's because, from what I've heard, the breed specifications of what's a purebred Katahdin have loosened. And so, for example, you can turn any flock into a Katahdin flock with selective breeding, so long as you have a pure Katahdin ram. And I think that takes 4 or 5 generations to do that. But they're a really popular sheep, and I can't really see myself thinking, that they're a subpar sheep when so many people have them. I think I've seen a lot of Katahdin Dorper crosses. That's a really handsome sheep. That's something I'd be interested in one day. And people that I've communicated with online have no problems with Katahdins. So I'm all for them. I think they're a great sheep. I just like Dorper better. Some other great things about the Katahdin, they have excellent meat. They're great mothers, which again, you really want, especially in a large flock, a low input trait like that. The babies are very vigorous, which means that they get their milk more. They're friendly sheep, which I will say they have that advantage over the Dorper. The Dorper are good sheep, and maybe it's because I should be closer with mine. I don't know, but they don't eat out of my hand or anything like that. I've seen a lot of Katahdins. If you look at the grass-fed homestead, he's got Katahdins and super friendly girls over there. And some people have said that you don't have to trim their feet as often. I don't know what I believe about that, so don't quote me on anything there. It's just what I've heard. So overall, who's the Katahdin right for? Well, truly, they are an excellent breed in most any scenario. So if you're homesteading or you've got a large operation, the Katahdin could be the right sheep for you. Hey, thank you for sticking around. I know that that's a long video. I'm interested in hearing your comments, though, because a lot of people out there keep different breeds. I can talk about Dorper, but really all I have to rely on is, some people that I meet on Facebook and comments on YouTube, what I can read online. So if you have comments on your favorite meat sheep, I would love to hear them below.